You meet someone for the first time, and within seconds, before they've even said much, your mind has already formed an opinion, maybe about how they look, how they talk, what they do for a living, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet judgment forms. Almost automatically, we're taught that judging others is wrong, that we should always give people the benefit of the doubt. And yet, almost everyone does it, constantly, often without even realizing it. So today, we're going to look honestly at something most people don't like to admit. Why we judge others, where it actually comes from, and why it's more complicated than simply being a bad habit. Let's start with something important to understand right away: judgment. In a psychological sense, isn't the same as cruelty. At its core, judgment is your brain's way of quickly making sense of the world, categorizing people, situations, and information, so you can decide how to respond. This ability evolved for a very practical reason. Early humans needed to make fast decisions about who was safe, who might be a threat, who belonged to their group, who didn't. Back then, a quick judgment could be the difference between safety and danger. So the brain developed a system that categorizes people almost instantly, often based on very limited information. That system hasn't disappeared. It's still running, constantly, in the background of your mind, even in situations where there's no actual danger at all. This is why you can form an opinion about someone within seconds of meeting them. Your brain isn't trying to be unfair. It's running an ancient survival process, applied to a completely modern situation. Here's where things get more personal. A huge amount of judgment isn't actually about the other person at all. It's about you. Psychologists have long pointed out something called S projection, where the traits we judge most harshly in others are often traits we're uncomfortable with in ourselves. If someone is quick to judge others as lazy, it's worth asking, do they struggle with their own relationship to rest or productivity? If someone constantly judges others for being too emotional, it might reflect discomfort with expressing their own emotions. This isn't true in every single case, but it happens far more often than people realize. Judgment can become a way of pushing something uncomfortable outward, instead of looking at it directly. There's another major reason people judge others, and it has to do with FISAS identity and belongings. Humans are deeply social creatures. For most of human history, being part of a group wasn't just comforting, it was necessary for survival. One of the fastest ways groups have always bonded is through shared judgment, agreeing on who is in and who is out, what's acceptable and what isn't. This is why gossip, criticism, and shared opinions about other people can feel oddly bonding. In a strange way, judging someone together creates a sense of closeness and shared identity. This doesn't make it right, but it explains why judgment often shows up socially, in groups, rather than just individually. It's tied to a very old need to belong somewhere. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough. Judgment is often a way of creating a feeling of control. When you judge someone else's choices, appearance, or behavior, you're implicitly placing yourself outside of that situation. That wouldn't happen to me, because I wouldn't make that choice. This creates a subtle, false sense of safety. If bad things happen to people who make certain choices, and you don't make those choices, then surely you're protected. Of course, life doesn't actually work this way, but the illusion of control that judgment provides can feel comforting, especially in situations that otherwise feel unpredictable or frightening. There's also a simpler, more mundane reason people judge others. Affects mental shortcuts called heuristics. Your brain processes an enormous amount of information every day, and to manage that load, it relies on shortcuts, quick categories, assumptions, and patterns based on past experience. If someone reminds you, even slightly, of someone from your past who hurt you, your brain may unconsciously apply some of those old feelings to this new person without you even realizing why. This is neither fair nor accurate, most of the time, but it explains why some judgments happen instantly and feel very certain even when they're based on very little real information. So, does understanding all of this mean judgment is completely unavoidable? Not exactly, but it does mean the goal isn't to pretend you never judge anyone. That's not realistic. And expecting perfection from yourself in this area usually backfires. The more useful goal is learning to notice judgment when it happens and getting curious about it instead of immediately acting on it. The next time you catch yourself forming a quick, harsh opinion about someone, try pausing and asking, is this actually about them, or is this touching something in me? Sometimes the honest answer is simply, I don't have enough information yet, and that alone can soften a judgment before it fully forms. Another helpful practice is getting curious about context. People rarely act the way they do for no reason. Behavior that looks strange, rude, or irrational on the surface often makes complete sense once you understand what someone is dealing with underneath. This doesn't mean every behavior is excusable. Some things genuinely deserve criticism, boundaries, or distance. Understanding where judgment comes from isn't about excusing harmful behavior. It's about becoming more thoughtful in how and why we form opinions about people. There's also something worth remembering about the judgment we direct at ourselves. The same mental patterns that